All right. Welcome back to the Board Drill Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Kyle Bradburn. With me is my co-host, Matt Dixon. And tonight we have Coach Will Dettor, who is the founder and, what's the actual title here, Coach? Because, obviously I know you run the Florida High School 7-on-7 Association. Is it founder? Or are you like CEO? Are you the president? What's the exact title for the organization?
Yes, they all work. I did found it. And the last couple of years, I've been signing off my emails with executive director. There was a time when
Love it.
commissioner. For tax purposes, I say president. So whatever you want to call it, I'll go with it. Coach usually works the best.
We need to make that Twitter official, so make sure you get that adjusted right after the show, Coach. But tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about the Florida 7v7 and how everything works in the offseason. If you're one of our coaches from around the country, we apologize. It's going to be a little Florida-centric tonight, but we do that every once in a while because obviously me and Matt are based out of Jacksonville and Orlando, respectively. So, Coach, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Florida High School 7-on-7 Association, kind of what it does and really how it operates within the state?
Sure. Well, guys, first off, thanks for having me on. I'm a big fan of the podcast and enjoy listening to it, each week. And so I'm honored to be a part of it and be on it for this week. And thanks for having me. But so we started, I say we, actually, good friend of mine, good friend of yours, was kind of a behind the scenes guy with me. And we, about 12 years ago, came up with this concept of giving coaches the opportunity to work with their players in the off season. At the time, travel 7-on-7 was really starting to take off. And, we kept hearing from coaches and myself included, we were experiencing, having kids on our team that wanted to go play travel 7-on-7 in the off season. And they were going to these tryouts, and with the light transfer rules that there are in the state of Florida, you'd send the kid off or you hear he's going to go play, and you really kind of cross your fingers and hope for the best that he'd come back to you when the off season was over. And for years before, all did regular 7-on-7 during the summer. We'd get together. And so, basically the concept we put together is, well, why can't we do this as well? And so after scouring the FHSA rule book for, 6 months and making some phone calls and checking things out and getting things set up, we put this idea to cut together where we would offer 7-on-7 and we like to think of it as interscholastic 7-on-7, where we would, invite as many high schools at the time that wanted to come out and give it a shot, a way to work with their kids in the off season, be fully insured and while doing it and be fully compliant with the FHSA. And they could go out and they could grow with each other informally. And we also created the very first year, the FHS 7v7A state championship tournament, and just kind of stake claim on that. First year, funny story is that first year we had the state championship comprised seven teams, which were the 7 members we had that very first year. And it was a heck of a deal. I think most of the teams played each other 3 times that first tournament. But we crowned a state champion, and the rest is history from there. So
Who won it that first year?
First year was St. Cloud High School.
Okay,
and we hosted it at Crescent City High School.
Okay, yeah.
Places. So I got a big deal on the facilities there. I was the athletic director, so we had it there in about 100-degree morning in July. I think we were doing it then. So anyway.
So when does the official, I guess, season run? Like, how would I, look, let's say I'm a brand new coach in the state of Florida, head coach, and I'm from, Michigan, and I'm still trying to get a feel for all the FHSA and everything around it. When does that season start? When can I sign up, and what does it run through?
So, Kyle, that's one of the most often asked questions, especially with new coaches, that I get, and I'm glad you asked. What I like to kind of call it is we have an open or a rolling season, meaning that registration, for instance, this year technically opened a week and a half ago. Usually the first Monday after the regular season concludes for fall football. And we open it up, and then it stays open all the way up into our state championship tournament in usually the 3rd week in June. And we will get teams that will start signing up. Like we've had since it's been open, I think we had our 7th team sign up this morning already for this off season, and we'll have some early birds that'll continue to sign up between now and Christmas. The majority of teams will start signing up mid-January, February, and even early March, right before spring break. So my point in saying that is it's just an open season. So whenever you as a coach feel like it is a good time to get that part of your off-season activities started, you can jump in. You can sign your kids up, get them insured, and either start playing informal games with other teams, or certainly first start practicing, then start playing informal games with other teams if you so choose. Or we have tournaments, smaller regional tournaments we start putting on the first week of February. And they run all the way up to spring football. Take the month of May off as a pause, and then for spring football, of course, and in Florida, and then we start back up for a couple weeks until we have our state championship in June.
Nice. So Matt, I'm going to ask you a question while we have Coach here. You were a head coach, but also I know you're an offensive guy. Talk about how valuable it is to be able to get out there and start throwing whenever you need to, whether it's winter or early spring, kind of that nature. Is that, hey, is that helpful from an offensive side? I know what it is for the defensive side, but kind of what's that, being a head coach and looking at the holistic point of view, is it nice to hop out there and start throwing right away, or?
Oh yeah, the more reps you can get, especially when you're out there without pads on, being able to work through the whole season. My first head coaching gig when we were at Atlantic, that was one of the first things I did after that for the first season I was there, that I started in August. I got to my off season and got in contact with Coach Dettor, and, that was awesome to see those kids progress. We had a lot of kids that were coming from basketball, trying out football. So it was a great way for us to get those kids out on the field in cleats and, not just in the basketball gym, and teach them the basics behind what we needed for the season. And we saw huge improvement from season 1 to season 2 at that school, offensively. And it felt like it opened the game. We didn't have to just turn around and hand the ball off. We were able to execute some pass plays with some young kids that, came out and tried out the 7-on-7. And, a great thing about it is, you can call up the school down the road that you may not play, and, hey, you want to come over Tuesday? Oh, Wednesday works. Okay, let's go. Let's do it. And send in the information and, make sure that, check your kids, make sure everybody's good to go, and hit the field and get some reps in against another team. So I think that's awesome that, you can get out there and do that now in Florida.
Yeah, we interviewed a coach not too long ago, a good friend of the show, but Coach Avery talked about the valuable of the, being able to install things all summer through that. And he talked about how he did his cool install, which he goes forward and backwards and all these things. But, Coach Dettor, that was the big thing. He talked about how valuable it was to be able to do this during the summer. And really, by the time he walked into day 1 at camp, they felt like they've installed almost their entire offense because they had the ability to do this during the summer. So I think that's the big thing I stress with coaches, why it's such an important thing is if you're not doing it, everyone's getting ahead of you because they are doing it. I know in the Jacksonville area, almost every team is signed up for it. Matt, I'm pretty sure in the Orlando area, it was the same way. I just don't, maybe if you're a wing T team and you're just not that interested in it, but I can still see value in doing that even if you are, because you do play defense against teams that aren't wing T teams. So, I do think that's a big deal. So getting back to it, Coach Dettor, what's the process? All right, I'm a coach. This sounds great. I want to sign up for it. Where do I go? What do I do? Is there a cost to it? How do I set my team up?
And I was going to just say, add one thing to what you guys were saying, just a minute ago is I think that's some of the best aspects of it is really, and that's why we do the rolling deal where it's open, because it's set up to really be flexible and fit the needs of so many various programs. Because as you guys know, they're, depending on the region, depending even within the region, teams in Florida are so different, run different offenses, different defenses. Some schools are big basketball schools, and so they might be waiting for their kids to, some of their key kids to come out after basketball. Some coaches are taking over programs and they want to get a jump start. And that's what we hear a lot of is that, or we get a lot of it. Brand new head coaches taking over a program. They jump in and join because they can get a jump start on getting to know their kids, seeing who can play the quarterback position or receiver position. We all know that when we get out there, every kid, that can run a little bit wants to catch a ball or carry a ball. You can get a jump start and kind of see who can really do it before you get into those 20 days in spring. And so there's a lot of handy things. And Kyle, I'm glad that you said you made the defensive comment, because of all things you would think, I guess the executive director of 7-on-7 would be a offensive guru. I've been a head coach before, but I was the defensive coordinator there. I've always been a defensive coordinator, and most of the schools that I've coached in, the offense that was run was either the wing tee or the triple option. I've never been a part of, until the last couple of years, big throwing programs. But, kind of as you point out, and I'll give you an example, is one of the schools I was at, I was defense coordinator at Newberry, and we were wing tee triple option. And we got to face good old Pahokee in the first round of the playoffs. And if it wasn't for 7-on-7 in the summer, they were 4 wide, spread it out, take shot plays every third or fourth play. I mean, we just could not replicate it in practice. And so being able to participate in 7-on-7, we did it, of course, through our association, but also just going to summer camps and things like that. It was really helpful for our defensive guys, because we just could not replicate that type of thing in practice.
When were you at Newberry?
I was at Newberry in 2016.
Okay. All right. You wouldn't have crossed paths with me then. We used to have some epic battles between Florida High and Newberry in the, what would it be, kind of 2007 to 2009 range.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Then I was actually out of football then for 2 years. Yeah. I'd finished up at Union County in 2007, and then took a couple years off before I came back at Black in 2010.
Yeah, I had flashbacks to losing a playoff game at Newberry. It was a tough night, but all right, Coach, let's get back into it. All right, I'm a coach who wants to sign up. Where do I go? How do I do it? What's the process?
So you go to our website, FHS7B7A.com, and then basically you have 2 options on how to sign up. You can either sign yourself up as a team. You can contact us, let us know how many players you want to sign up. You can add players at any time, but let's just say, you say, I want to sign up 20 kids. Assistant coaches are free, so there's no extra cost for that. But so you say you want to sign up 20 kids, it's $30 a player. Right there, that comes out at $600. And all you have to do is get them to sign waivers, and we do a facility use agreement with the school, and we send you an insurance certificate and get your names for the 20 kids, and put them on a roster, and there we go. You're pretty much set. And you put together, as you kind of mentioned a little bit before, an informal schedule with some other teams, and you send that to us, and we publish that, and you're in full compliance with FHSA, and you're good to go. The other way to go about doing it is you can have your kids sign themselves up, which is certainly from a paperwork standpoint, without they'll fill out the waivers online themselves. It's a lot easier for the coaches, and probably 75% of our teams do that, where they'll have the kids go online, fill out the waiver, put in their information, and pay their $30. And then, the money doesn't have to come out of, come through the football coach to keep track of it and all that type of thing, or to find, a donor or booster or something like that to pay for it. And the kids just take on that expense. It's $30 in the whole lot.
Yeah. I'm just, look at my history in the state of Florida coaching, and I love my players and everything, but I'm shocked that you get a team of kids to sign up correctly online and do that. So, must have had them in the classroom in the lab, right, walking them through it. Because
I'll get some phone calls with a coach that's got his team in the computer lab and says, "Hey, coach, walk us through it right now. We've got you on speakerphone." And I've done that a few times, and happy to do it.
Yeah, I think it would have been a struggle at a few schools. But my math were just like, yeah, go home and sign up for this. We'd have rolled out that first day with 7 players, right?
Yep, that's why we have both options. But I also say that too. I experienced it my year as a head coach at Lake Weir. We were kind of one of those schools where they needed a little bit of help. But it's amazing, you get a couple kids signed up, you get out there on the field with the ball in January or February, and magically those waivers start to show up the next day.
Yeah, it's true.
There's something about 7-on-7. They don't want to stay away. They're it's like.
Well, and like anything, the minute that they don't get to participate in it, and you tell them you got to go stand there on the sideline, they're going to go home that night and get it done, right? Like, I'm tired of this. I want to go catch a football. I want to play. So That's always a good thing with that. So, but no, this has become a huge staple of Florida football. I know there's teams out there that don't do it. I just don't know who they are, because everybody I talk to, especially in the Jacksonville area, just like you said, right? You sign up for it, you go find 5 or 6 local teams, you throw throughout the summer, maybe it's one time a week or something like that, and you use that as a tool to get better. And typically enough people are signed up where you can go find people that you're not going to play during the fall too, which is nice, right? For a lot of coaches, is, hey, we can go over there and play this team, and we can play that team, and it's still only a 20-minute drive, and we don't have to do the 5 teams that are immediately in our district that are located right next to us. So that's nice. What I did not know is that you guys posted the schedule for those. I had no idea that was done.
Yeah, so it's actually a FHSA compliance regulation that they have a one published contest for the season. So, and that's the other thing, again, why we try to be flexible. We have teams and coaches and players that, again, they want to go compete. Like in Tampa, we probably have about 15 or 20 schools, and they've really kind of created their own little spring league down there where come March, there's a game or a meetup between 3 to 4 or 5 or 6 high schools, every Tuesday and Thursday somewhere. And, they make a big deal out of it. Their kids love it. They keep score. And they'll send me the results, and they'll send me the schedule ahead of time and send some pictures to get on social media. They get their own social media intern, whatever you want to call it, that's out there shooting some video and things. And so they're all in. We've got some teams in Orlando that are more like they either want to come to our spring tournaments that we have, and I'll talk about that here in a minute, where they're getting together, a few times and throwing informally. I know like Popka and Mount Dora and DeLand over the years have gotten together in East Ridge and those schools like that. And then like you said, up in Jacksonville, that's where we started this 11 years ago. And that's kind of our home territory, if you will. And so those schools, get together and from time to time. And then there's other teams out there that really just, want to get out there and break up the grind of the weight room the off season, and they want to keep their kids together and throw with them and do something to break it up and the kids, of course, have fun. And so, most of what they're doing is practicing until they may come to the state championship tournament, or they might put together one game right before senior football. So, whatever fits the coach's needs or the program's needs, they're able to do it, which is pretty cool.
Matt, where was that school we used to go do it? Like they would host people like every Thursday night. It's down the road there in Oviedo.
Yeah, that was Trinity. Prep. They do it through their FCA program, whatever third-party organization they run.
They would do a cool one because there was like 5 or 6 teams would show up every Thursday night. We never knew who we were going to play, Matt. We just show up and it's like a coin toss. Like, all right, you're playing them and them. Like, all right, let's go.
So Trinity actually, and back to what I was going to say about the tournament. So the tournament deal has really started to grow, and especially in Orlando. Last year, Trinity was our host. Coach Kells, who used to be at University Orange City, took over there, and he had brought his teams from university to some of our events over the years. And so he wanted to host, and we had 4 tournaments last year at Trinity on Saturdays in the spring. And we had anywhere between 18 and 24 high schools that came all the way up from Miami, down from like Menendez and St. Johns County came down. Teams over in Tampa came over and, playing tournaments and playing. And then we also kind of introduced an new concept last year, which was, we called it our Extreme League, where they just came in and played 4 games. There was no tournament. They were just playing to get it, like what you're talking about, or kind of like old school summer pro, where you got referees out there and, got rules and officiating and all that good stuff. But they're playing their 4 games and going home. So that was well received.
I remember the old days when there were no refs, and then you get coaches out there arguing, and or they, I'd be back there as the DC, and the offensive guy, pipes the running back up the middle, and I just kind of give him a look.
Yeah.
There's no argument for me because I really don't. I never cared about winning a 7-on-7 game, but I just kind of give the guy a look like, you're really gonna do that crap right now, like.
Or the dump pass on the 1-yard line to the back.
We had a team one year. I won't name who they are. Yeah, I will. But they would run like empty sniffer rollout. And I'm like, look, this is fine for 7-on-7, but your quarterback's getting murdered in real life. Stop doing that. I was like, you're rolling out of empty, bud. Like, what are we doing? So here's the question I have for you. And really, maybe this is an overall commentary and statement. Can we get everyone to quit wearing stupid crap while they play 7-on-7, or is that just a staple now that we're never going to get rid of?
You're never getting rid of it. I mean, it's there's definitely a meter or whatever you want to call it. I don't know what the word is these days.
There's people out there in like pajamas and like Santa hats.
Now wait a
and
minute.
stuff.
Now wait a minute. Now we don't have that. I was going to say I didn't know that's what you're specifically talking about. We actually don't have a lot of that at our events. We have like full on like compression tops, compression tights.
I'm good with all that.
Color coordinated.
Yeah.
The sleeves, some sunglasses, all the good stuff.
I can even deal with the sunglasses. It's these guys, you see them, and look, I'm not big on it, but you'll open, TikTok or Instagram or whatever, and you got a guy in like pajamas, or what was it? The one guy wore like the mink coat one year to prove that he could go out and run. And I'm like, guys, what are we doing at this point? The guy's wearing a full length fur coat to go catch a post route against a kid that, let's be real, it's some 5-star from wherever, and I'm covering him. I'm like, yeah, I could have told you were going to win in the mink coat. So it's just getting silly. I like the fact, I'd like if people are, look, if you're all geared out in school stuff and you got sunglasses on or whatever, that's fine. But like, good Lord, can we, in the 7-on-7 community, if you're listening, and I mean outside the Florida one, stop wearing dumb shit because it's bothering me, guys. It's awful.
My problem is the coaches. I mean, the coaches sometimes are out of control.
One of the things too, and that is
stop wearing backpacks.
One of the advantages I think we do have, and I think, and it draws, I mean, all jokes aside, it draws coaches in to bringing their teams to our events and our association is, like you said, now need to preface this. We're all competitors. So let me tell you, just like that coach that you were talking about that would, that refereed, the game and all that other stuff. Listen, he was the guy who I guarantee was like leading up to it, riding on the bus to wherever he had to go or calling the kids, said, I hate 7-on-7. I hate this shit. Like, hate it. I wish they just didn't. But yet, he's going to be the guy who, like, if like it gets to the heat of the game and the game's on the line, he wants to win. I mean, he's a competitor. So that's the cool thing is some of the nonsense that you do see in some of these other 7-on-7.
Yeah, it's true.
It doesn't trickle into what we do often, or it gets snuffed out pretty quick. We kind of have a saying that I say at the beginning of every tournament and event. I was like, if you don't do it on Friday nights, don't do it out here. And that's been good for us for 11 years. And so all the extracurriculars, all the celebrations. Now, look, as I tell them, that's kind of what I say in these meetings. I say, look, I don't want to be the fun police. It is a grind in the off season. I want the kids to have fun, but have fun with your own teammates. Like, let's not at the expense of somebody else. And we'll get you flagged, and we will flag you and penalize you if you can't handle that. And stay on your sidelines. We're not tapping heads. We're not. Backflip with your teammates. We don't punt footballs across the field on interceptions. We don't do all that nonsense. And so anyway, it's been good and it ends up being a fun event and fun to be involved with. And the coaches have really gotten into it over the years.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, it's a chance to go out and compete, and I think that's what we all strive for. At least, from my perspective as coaches, look, we're competitive people. That's why we coach, right? We're feeding something. And it's not that we're not out there for the kids and all this stuff, but like, let's be real. I love the kids and I love the players and stuff, but I like to compete as well, right? That kind of filled that void. Now, the only competing I get to do is with my wife at Mario Party. So, which I'm told I get way too intense when I play. So see, I need to clearly go out to a 7v7 tournament or a football game and yell out there. So
you need another outlet there.
I really could. But no, I think it's a valuable thing, during the off season. And I'll tell you this, I really didn't care about winning 7-on-7, and Matt can attest to this because at some point I get fed up. I'm like, let's go home. But I went out there and we truly worked on it defensively. We would run, now not at the quarterback, but we would run our pressures and cover with 6. We tell the kid, hey, take 3 steps, take a knee, and let's try to work through our 3 deep, 3 under, 3 deep fire zone. Hey, let's work through this, let's work through that. Now, I'm not talking about in a tournament. I get a tournament, you're trying to win, but when we played with local teams, we went through our entire menu of defense. Because I tell the kids, I'm like, look, if you can sit out here at 7v7 with no O-line and no D-line and run a coverage a man down and be good at it, we're going to be just fine when the fall comes around. So if you are a coach listening, that's my one big tip for you, especially defensively, is like run what you run. Don't go out there and run a bunch of two-man that you're never going to run on a Friday night just because you want to win a 7-on-7. No, go out there and, run your rip liz, run your quarters and your palms, run your fire zones, run your, all different, run zero pressure, see what you got. It's the best time to evaluate the kids, so go ahead and do it. Because I did it all the time. People would be like, are you really doing zero coverage in 7-on-7? I'm like, yeah, we got to figure out whether we could blitz or not this year. So that was one thing I remember always going through, and even some of the assistant coaches are giving me weird looks. I'm like, I don't care if we win this or lose by 40. I'm just going to tell you right now, we're going to run our menu of stuff, and I'm going to move on with my day. And so, that's my best piece of advice if you're listening and you do 7-on-7 is like, that's how you care truly, is run your menu and then let your young kids do things they wouldn't do. Our younger kids typically, growing up, we just played palms, right, and quarters, and we wanted to be really solid run fitters. Well, that's your time that we're going to run our corner blitz or we're going to run our fire zone and see what the young kids can do it right. Because if they screw it up in a 7-on-7, nobody cares a week later. No dad is meeting me at the fence after a 7-on-7 and yelling at me. They are on a Friday night, but they're not doing it after a 7-on-7, or at least I haven't experienced it yet. So, Matt, maybe you experienced that. I'm not sure.
Oh, not really. It was always good at 7-on-7s. They understand what it is.
Yeah. So always a fun thing. I know, and now do you guys, when people go to these, the UCF one or the Florida State one or whatever, I know that's kind of a separate thing, but is that one where most of those teams are still certified through 7-on-7, or do they do a separate process for that? I don't even remember it. I was never a head coach going to those.
Yeah, so that's in the summer, and so summer is wide open for FHSA rules. It's really up to the school.
Okay.
The FHSA doesn't govern it. So if teams we put on some tournaments. Some of our members have put on tournaments for our members. Have their own tournament at their place, maybe as a fundraiser or just to get together in June or July. Or even now, this is kind of how big it's getting. There was a school last year that advertised it as a warm up for the state championship, a week ahead of time, and had 12 teams come in. And so, in the summertime, they can do basically whatever they want to. But a lot of the teams still use our insurance, and still do things with other member teams during that time. Going back to something you said, it's funny. One of our first tournaments that we had a flex bone offense come in, and they were in the finals. They went to the finals. They waggled out the quarterback and used up 2 of the 4 seconds on every single offensive snap they had.
Yeah, I love that.
And that's what you find. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that when you get in the tournaments in the next to last round or in the championship round, a little cover 2 man doesn't come out from time to time, and because again, it goes back to that competitor thing. Or a little 5 wide doesn't come out. But we have it in the rules. You have to have the right amount of guys on the line of scrimmage. You can't have a receiver covered up and go downfield. So again, the whole point of this is to get better for the fall. And a lot of the coaches really get involved or get into it for the right reasons and for those things so that they can really work the schemes. The other thing that you touched on for a second, which I've seen a lot more teams over the last couple of years really kind of tap into this. And personally, I'm at a school right now where we have 120 kids on, in 9 through 12 out for football. I don't have time to work with, some of my 3rd and 4th team kids.
Correct.
My freshmen. I have no idea what type of athlete they're going to be when they're a junior or senior, but as a freshman, they're a little bit ways down the depth chart. And for me, this is a great way, and it's been a great way, and a lot of coaches find this too, is work with those younger kids in January, February. Spend some time. That's a great time without pressure to start to develop these kids' skills and see what they can do, and see, spend some time with them that you're not going to be able to spend with them in August, September, and October, and certainly into November. So take the time in the spring to do it and keep those kids interested in the game, where they don't feel so buried down the depth chart that they're never getting some time with the coach to develop. And this is a great way to do some of that.
Matt, I just had an idea come across. You may or may not love this. We need to create just one tournament a year where it's just all O linemen and D linemen playing 7-on-7.
So yeah, we used to do that with when I was in high school. I remember we used to have during the summer a little fat boy routes, fat boy 7-on-7. And man, that was fun. You basically let the other teams go and you're on the opposite end zone, just going from the back of the goal line to the 20, and we'd go opposite of the field to keep it short. But yeah, that's a great concept. There needs something for the big guys and coaches. Make your centers snap. Make your centers snap in this stuff, especially when you're just practicing and stuff. Get the snaps in. I hate little, backup quarterback on a knee, flipping it back. Take your centers, let them be involved. Let them, even if it's not your center, bring an offensive lineman and get them signed up and let them snap the ball and work on that side of your game.
Coach, I'm all in on this. Can we get a state championship just for the big boys? Can we get a big boy state title?
So funny you mentioned that. So you may or may not know we do a lineman challenge with our state championship tournament.
Yeah.
And so they do mainly strongman events. We don't do the one-on-one pass blocking with no pads on. That's just something that's never subscribed to. And so we're mainly on strongman events, but it's been tossed around the idea. One of our coaches that has been doing running the lineman challenges has said, why don't we take and as one of the 20 or 30-minute events, let the linemen go play 5-on-5, or 5-on-5, 7-on-7, let them run around and do that. So we're going to put a poll out to our coaches this year and see if that's something that they'd be interested in doing. And if so, you very well may see that this year at the state line.
Matt, if they do that, the board drill may have to show up. I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand with what our name is. I mean, at that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe we'll go try to figure out a way to mic up some big boys and we'll get some behind the scenes action.
Well, I got
you know how thrilled those big boys would be to go and do that.
Have y'all ever seen the OT7? Like the crazy stuff they got going on now that's on like national and the NFL Network where they're scoring touchdowns and jumping into foam pits and stuff like that.
No, I haven't seen that. OT.
Yeah. So ask Avery about it. He's familiar with it. He's seen it. But anyway,
of course he is.
Yeah. So I was just sitting here listening. You guys should come down to the state championship and do like a on-site podcast or just commentate like, one of our stream games. And I think it'd be very entertaining.
I don't know if you could put us on a live stream, but we could definitely do some recorded things. I'm just trying to save my career here. It's me, not Matt. In case you're listening, it's all me. I'm looking at it now.
Your reaction to coaching.
Yeah.
That would
get
you in trouble there.
I'd be like, and drop like an F-bomb, like excited, and that you guys would, Coach, you'd be like, yeah, you got to go, Bradburn. So, no, man, we'd be happy to pop out if it works with our schedule and everything. I don't know. When is the championships again?
So it's usually the third Friday and Saturday in June. So I think this year it's going to fall June 20th and 21st. And we're doing it down at we've been going to the Villages for the last 6 or 7 years. And now at their new high school and beautiful complex they've got there, looks like a small college. That's where our state championship is now.
We'll have to see. Matt, when are you getting married again?
April. I'm good.
There we go. Sorry for announcing it on the podcast. I just got to make sure we're all good there. So, no, Coach, I think it's great. I think it's a cool opportunity for us to come down and hang out if our schedules work out. We love doing this stuff. I know, right now we're planning a coaches meetup, I think is what we're going to call it in Jacksonville. We're kind of doing like a mini clinic / social event. So if you're listening, we got that coming up in January. So we're trying to get out there and trying to help out more coaches. Our mission obviously is to help high school coaches all throughout the country. But we know we're going to start in our home base, right? We're here to help Florida coaches. I don't want to say first and foremost, but obviously we're closer to those guys and we really want to help them. So anytime we can get out to an event, we really want to do it. I just got to get the old okay from my wife and Matt at that point will have to get the okay from his wife. So that's always a dicey situation for me. We'll see if how whipped he is at that point, a month and a half in. So it'll be an intriguing thing for Matt.
I'll be fine. We can make it.
Said every man ever before they got married, Coach. I'll be fine. So, well, perfect. Matt, any other questions or kind of closing things for 7v7 here as we close out the episode, and then we'll ask our patented question?
I mean, no questions for Coach Dettor. I'm going to reiterate, we used to use it. We'd get out there and start in March, and you don't have all your guys. Hopefully, you got some kids still running track, and but it's good to get those younger kids into those roles and let them start running it and understanding it. And that's what we had a lot of the time throughout the time we did this 7-on-7 league was, developing, as Coach said, developing that younger talent and getting those kids out there on the field, and give them an opportunity to show what they can do and try to develop those kids. So I think it's something that you need to be doing. And if you're not doing it, you're going to lose kids to one of those private 7-on-7 groups who's coached by someone at another school. That's where you lose some kids there. So it's always good to have those kids and have them around each other and working with each other.
Yeah, I agree. It's such a nice thing there. So Coach Dettor, we ask every coach this that comes on the podcast. So if you have listened to all of them through, you should know what's coming. But you've coached for a while. You've been at several different places. What is the coolest thing that you've been a part of, you've seen, or most unique thing that you've seen throughout your career that you've done at a football school?
Well, all right. So you threw me for a loop because I thought you were going to say like, what do we do with 7-on-7? So I was kind of prepared for that one.
No, I threw you a curveball. This is the whole goal. We like to mess with coaches like this, and we give them a minute to answer it. Normally me and Matt will fill the void, but really just thinking about your career, what is like, it could be the coolest tradition on the field, off the field, anything, but what's the most unique or coolest thing that you've been a part of in your entire football career? Anywhere.
So I'll say this, probably definitely the coolest thing was, and some of maybe your older listeners may remember who I'm going to mention, but I worked for Buddy Nobles at Union County back in 2003 to 2007. We had a guy by the name of CJ Spiller on that football team.
Oh, yeah.
And had a fun run there for 4 years. But one thing that he always did, and that school, Union County, still to this day has got a ton of tradition. But one of the coolest things that we did every Friday night is Buddy brought him in, and I think Coach Pruitt before and coaches since then have continued this tradition, is bring somebody in that's been a former Tiger and have him speak to the team. And literally, he didn't know what he was going to say. I mean, so it was always from the heart. And I mean, they'd come in there and you'd have these guys who hadn't played football in 10, 15 years. Sometimes it'd be a really older gentleman that maybe was, 40 years out of playing football, or it might have been somebody who graduated just a few years before, and they get in front of 40 or 50 teenage boys that are, 5 minutes from hitting the field, and all kinds of stuff starts to pour out. And we got tears, we got things I can't repeat, and everything else in between. But it was always, and I can remember to this day, it was always, what did being a Union County Tiger mean to you? And, it seems really, really simple. It's something that could be replicated very easily, I'm sure. And I'm sure plenty of other schools do it too. But for us at Union County at the time, it was a huge deal. And, they knew that Coach Dettor was going to be fiery. They knew Coach Nobles was going to be, speaking from the heart and, might shed a tear at a pregame or a postgame speech. But when they heard from somebody who they knew from the community or knew about it, it made a whole different type of impact. And it really fired those kids up to go out and really connected with them. So that was something cool that's always stuck with me. And there's been a few other places where we tried to replicate something like that since, but that was something really cool we did there in Lake Butler.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Funny enough, here we go. Just from my experience, and I wasn't coaching there at the time, but CJ Spiller, Union County, Florida High played you guys in a game, and they showed me this when I got there, and they talked about this play all the time. The 1 yard line, Florida High scores, they win the game, they run quick toss, quick pitch. Everybody's blocked up except CJ Spiller, who's playing defense, comes flying through, nails the guy who was like a Kentucky commit running back, drops him at the 1 yard line, game over.
So I never thought I'd get to tell this story, but I got a story to go along with that. So you brought it up, I got to bring it up. So I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but I started my coaching career at Florida High. I don't know if you knew that.
With Mike Hickman?
Yes. 1997. I was a 18-year-old student at Florida State and got recruited. Well, I asked for a job and I ended up being events coordinator over there at 19. So anyway, long story short, I got to cut my teeth with one of the legends, being Coach Hickman. Well, anyway, we go in 97 to Lake Butler and played them when they were on their 58 game winning streak, and we took them down to the wire and went to overtime. And I love Coach Hickman. I've told him that, and when I say this story, I mean this. I was torn when
Everybody loves Coach Hickman. Yeah, he's one of those guys.
Love Jared and talk to Jared probably once a month, to this day. But anyway, we went for it in overtime. Or excuse me, we kicked a field goal instead of going for it when we had them on the ropes. And Coach Hickman said that night we ended up losing, and he said that night if we had gone for it, he would have thrown, or he would have called quick pitch to the left to the visitor sideline. And fast forward to, I think it was 05, 06 that year.
Somewhere in there. Yeah.
They were in the same spot on the same end of the field at almost in the same situation. And they were driving. They got down to like our 3-yard line, busted like slipped the back out of the backside of the formation, threw a deep ball down the sidelines. We tackled them. Our kids were losing their mind. I mean, it was a crazy atmosphere. And I call timeout, because I just look out there and our kids are just losing it. And I'm just like, they're going to walk in the end zone on the next play. I think there was like 6 seconds left. Florida High's running down there trying to get a play together. Probably in hindsight, if I'd really realized exactly how many seconds were on the clock, they might not have been able to snap another play. But I call a timeout. To which point, I'll never forget Coach Nobles screaming at the sidelines going, "Who called a timeout?" And I'm like, "I did." And at that moment, I realized, oh my God, what did I do? I go out in the huddle and I said, "Guys, calm down." I said, "I promise you, they're going to run a quick pitch to their sidelines. You got to beat them to the pylon." And that's what they did. And we stopped them on the 1-yard line. And
wow.
It was bittersweet.
Matt, and it was CJ that stopped him too. It wasn't,
Yeah, it was CJ and a couple other guys that may or may not have gotten there in time, but it was going to be close. But it was, and I say that not to sound arrogant or whatever. It's just another story that I'll never forget. And it was just one of those things.
It's funny.
And when you brought that up, that there were some great games back then.
If you know that offense, if you're listening and you care at this point, split back veer.
So they had broken away from that a little bit.
No, now they don't. Yeah. We started to break away from it when
that was like one of the first games, and why I thought all week long going into that game, we were going to have them we were game planned up, and they came out and they did some other stuff and opened up the offense. And I think that night we gave up we won 51-46 or something.
It was a wild game.
Yeah.
I remember because they were like, when I got there, we're going to sit you down and show you this to begin with. It was like you had to watch that game. And I was like, okay, well, that's cool. And it was like, we were like the first school in the state of Florida to get huddle. So that game was loaded on the huddle and everything. So and if you know Coach Hickman, I'm like, we should have run tight end reverse. You guys love that play. Why didn't you do that instead?
I still think to this day why more teams I really haven't hardly seen any teams run tight end reverse, but that was the old Florida High.
That was a staple there. We ran it once a game.
Oh yeah.
No matter who the tight end was, you're getting a tight end reverse once a game, boys. And it's really it's kind of right. It's like the wing wing trap. That's basically what it is. But it was tight end reverse.
It always worked. And I have no idea.
It worked every time, guys.
Every time.
Once a game, we're like, all right, we need 13 here. What's tight end reverse? Let's go. Love it. Well, Coach, thanks for joining us. I appreciate, talking about 7-on-7 and kind of that aspect in Florida. Again, if you have any more questions about it, feel free to reach out to Coach. Coach, what's your Twitter handle?
So it's at FHS7B7A.
Okay. So at FHS7B7A, you can reach out, DM Coach on that. He'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Go out, get signed up, make sure you're participating, get your kids out there, have a great time. So for me, Matt, and Coach Dettor, again, thanks for hopping on tonight. We appreciate having you, and we hope to have you on some point in the future.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. It was fun.